Hi, I'm Zelna Lawrence, founder of the Kids Life Studio and the Kids Life Coach Academy, and I'm really, I would say I'm excited to be here today, but truthfully, I'm feeling rather anxious because today is World Suicide Prevention Day, 10th of September, and this day every year is celebrated. Well, I wouldn't say the word celebrated, but it's actually it is celebrated in essence to raise awareness of the fact that globally there is one person committing suicide every 40 seconds. So today on World Suicide Awareness Day, I want to say thank you for giving me the time to share with me as I share 3 top tips that I have as a child resilience, leadership and peak performance expert. 3 tips that I have to actually galvanize your child's mind and prevent them from ever contemplating that extreme measure, that long-term outcome to a short-term feeling. I really have made it my life's work to support children globally, and today is my way of just giving back and sharing my experiences with regards to suicide. Now, I have to be honest and give you a little bit of background as to why I'm so passionate about this and why my global team and we work so incredibly hard to raise the profile of mental health in children and to stop making it taboo and to make it something that we talk about openly and willingly. Well, in the past 2 years, I personally have lost 2 family members to suicide, an uncle and a cousin. And that was traumatic, to say the least, for our entire family. And, looking back, there were so many things that we could have done differently, but we chose not to. However, these were 2 adults. When it comes to children, there are things that we could put into place really easily. And I'm going to share with you the 3 things that you can actually put in place to galvanize your child's mind against suicide. But before I go into that, I just want to share with you the risk factors to look out for in your child. Now, there's a couple of myths involved when it comes to children who are suicidal or at risk for suicide. And all of us know that when somebody's suicidal, we look for depression, right? So we look for a child who's going to be withdrawn. They don't want to socialize anymore. They have a sense of helplessness and hopelessness. They may have a change in their eating patterns. They don't sleep properly. They may lose interest in previous activities. So these are the telltale signs that a child may be depressed and that they may be at risk for depression. However, I want to caution you, it isn't only children who show these signals or these little red flags, as I like to call them. It's also your high achieving children. Those are the children who fly under the radar, the perfectionists, the ones who never want to get anything wrong. They're always doing everything right for fear of getting into trouble, for fear of being judged. So they put so much pressure on themselves to put a smile on their face and to get on with things. And it's behind those smiles and it's behind those empty little eyes that they're feeling the stress and the pressure and the anxiety. Now, sadly, in my experience, there are many children who experience a whole lot of stress and pressure, and it comes from the home environment, from parents, well-meaning parents who don't mean to put pressure on their children but unknowingly do put that pressure there for their children to be perfect. Now, one of the precursors to preventing suicide is to allow your children to make mistakes, to become really comfortable with the fact that they are permitted to make mistakes, to get things wrong, to be human, to have bad days, and for you to encourage them to speak about those feelings. So now that I've debunked that myth that only children who appear to be depressed may be suicidal, I want you to also be on the lookout in your children for those signals where your child may be pushing themselves too hard, where they may get something wrong, like in homework, and they may get really uptight about the fact that they've got this wrong, that is a trigger, okay? It's not to say they're going to commit suicide. No, that's not it at all. But perfectionism and pushing themselves so incredibly hard can also be a red flag for you to look out for. So I want you to look out for both of those, okay? It's easier for us to spot depression. Now, personally, I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. I've already shared with you that I've lost 2 family members in the last 2 years to suicide. And I myself have also suffered from clinical depression. And when I was suffering from clinical depression, before I was able to get support, I didn't want to ask for support. I was suffering from depression due to trauma. And it was hard for me to admit that. I was a high-functioning depressive. And that's why I'm so incredibly aware of children who appear to be functioning really well, who are at risk, because I know what I was like. Nobody knew. Nobody knew that I was depressed. Nobody knew that I was suicidal. I just got on with things. I was a high-functioning depressive. So there is such a thing. So I want you to hold that in your mind. And I want us now that we've looked at the risk factors and we've also looked at those myths behind the risk factors, I want us now to have a look at the 3 things that you can do as a parent to put measures in place to support your child. So I want you to kind of think of a plug, right? So a 3-prong plug that you plug into the wall. It has the 3 parts to it. Okay, so imagine that picture in your mind of that 3-prong, and I want you to see suicide prevention for your child as a 3-pronged approach, a plug approach, okay? So what do you do with the plug? You plug a plug into the wall to generate electricity to an external device. Now, most of the time, all of us are charging our mobile phones, our cell phones, right? We plug them in, we charge those cell phones through the electricity that's generated from the wall. So I want you to use that visualization and transfer that into your family, right? So when a child becomes suicidal, it's because their energy is depleted. It's because they don't have the energy to fight the overwhelm in their mind that's causing the mental confusion. So what do we have to do? We have to plug them in. So how do you plug children in? You can't just plug them in the wall and leave them on charge for an hour like we do with our mobile phones. That's not how it works. It takes daily, consistent habits to support your children. So the 3 top tips I'm going to give you now, okay? So write these down, keep them somewhere safe, and just remember these 3-pronged approach, okay? And then I'll give you a little bit more detail as well with regards to those. So the first one is to offer true, meaningful, unconditional love and support. What does that mean? Okay, going back to what I was saying with regards to children being afraid to get things wrong because their parents put so much pressure on them. Unconditional love when it comes to parenting is allowing your child to just be. Allowing your child to be who they were born to be and to learn through their own mistakes. So this means, parents, no helicopter parenting. I don't know if you've heard of that phrase. No lawnmower parenting. Helicopter parenting being when you hover over your children and you check every move and you protect them. Lawnmower parenting where you carve the way out for your child and make life so easy that they never get to learn from the challenges that they face and build their resilience. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? What comes first, adversity or resilience? Now, traditionally in the resilience research that I've done, because I'm involved in research studies on resilience, family resilience, resilience is something that can be taught. So the first prong that I've just given you is that you have to give that unconditional love and support to your child. Open up the lines of communication at a really young age. And there's a skill to that because when they become teenagers, that door can close on you and it won't open again. You have to get the foundation right below the age of 10, preferably. You've got a window, short window up until the age of 12. The second prong of that plug that couples the unconditional love is coupled to the resilience that I'm speaking about, right? Resilience is a skill that, like anything else, can be taught. Yes, now that is what our global network of Kids Life Studio coaches, that's what we do with children. We coach children to become the leaders of their own lives, and we build their resilience from the inside out. So we galvanize their brains, we support their families in putting the measures in place before things go wrong. Because let's face it, today's World Suicide Awareness Day. And why is it that we have to have this day? It's because we are not supporting children enough to look after their own mental health, their mental well-being. So the second thing that needs to happen is skills training. Every single child, no matter how old they are, it can start from as young as age 2, they need to be learning the skills to be dealing with life. We cannot cover them in cotton wool and protect them from the ups and downs of life. Bullying is going to happen. There's going to be divorce, there's going to be bereavement, there's going to be natural disasters like Tamara, our kids life coach in the Bahamas right now. The Hurricane Dorian has swept through and caused a natural disaster. There's trauma involved there. Children need to build resilience, okay, before things go wrong. So often we've been conditioned to believe that, we put blinkers on. It won't happen to my child. It's not going to happen to us. It happens to other people's children. No, a responsible parent would be a parent who realizes that no child is immune. No matter how great your parenting is, no matter how good your values are at home, your child will always be at risk if they do not have the skills to cope. Because what you really want as a parent is to give your child the skills to cope even when you're not around. That's what you're looking for. When you're not around to help your child, you want them to have the tools and the resources, the inner strength and resilience to be able to make good choices even when nobody's watching. And those good choices are related to that plug that plugs into the wall. What's going to lift their energy rather than drain it? The third prong of that plug, so the first prong was unconditional love and acceptance, even if your child messes up and gets it wrong. The second prong was to give your child the skills that they need to be able to navigate life with the confidence and the skills that they need to make good choices. And the third prong, now I've got a couple of people watching here and I want you to guess what the third prong is. So if you can just post in the comment section and just write down there what you think the third prong is. Manisha and Gillian and Sepor, Reza, Monique, Carmelina, Bronwyn, Esan, Alison Perry, big shout out to all of you watching. What do you think is that third prong that children need to be able to replenish their energy? So it's unconditional love, it's skills, and what's the third one? Come on, give it to me. Okay, so I'm going to keep you hanging. I'm going to move on. I'm going to keep you hanging. I want you to think about what that third prong is that's going to keep your child safe from possible thoughts about suicide. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Carmelina. Connection and play, 100% attention. Oh, I like that. That's a good one. Not quite what I was looking for, but it's definitely part of the first prong, which is the unconditional love and acceptance. The connection part goes there, definitely connection. So good approach there. You got that one. Anybody else? Monique, Mind Holidays. So Mind Holidays at the Kids Life Studio is all about meditation and positive visualizations where you take your mind away on holiday. So Monique, that's really great. Yes, definitely, but that's not the third prong. That falls into the second prong. That's part of the skills training side of things. Anybody else? Come on, give it to me. You all hiding out there this evening. I've got a few of you on here. There you go. Manisha, awesome. Communication. Oh, you You got it. It's communication. Manisha, well done. Big, big, big hearts to you. The third prong is to open the lines of communication positively. Now, the three prongs, when they work together, are going to support your child in raising their energy levels. Okay, so how does communication raise their energy levels? How does communication support your child? Now, remember we said your child needs unconditional love and support from you as a parent? Yes, that's a given. Remember we said that your child needs skills training? That's through coaching. Well, communication is something completely different. Communication is something that Carmelina actually said. She said that word there. Communication is linked very much to connection. Now, communication doesn't necessarily only mean with parents. This means having a sense of belonging. That means having a child who feels that they're supported not only by their parents, but by a village that it takes to raise that child, a global village. Communication is about your child knowing that they have other adults or friends or teachers or psychologists, or I have a big dream that every child has a kids' life coach or a kids' life coach, that your child has somebody that they can communicate with in a safe space where there's objectivity. Now, so often parents are really well-meaning, and they do a great job of supporting their parents with that their children, with that first prong. That first prong of that plug is all about plugging into your unconditional love and acceptance of your child, right? Now, communication goes hand in hand with that. But what happens is very often parents, they mean well. They want to open the lines of communication. They want to support their children. They want their children to tell them everything. But children don't. Children need an objective person, such as a kid's life coach, to talk to about the ups and downs of life without the fear of disappointing their parents. Think about it. When you were a child growing up, who was the one person that you spoke to most? Maybe it was a parent. I don't know. For most people that I know, it was another adult, a neutral adult, an adult who didn't live in the day-to-day, I'm going to call it muck, and I say that with the greatest of respect. Please don't take me wrong. It's not the muck, but the day-to-day ups and downs of family life that actually cloud your vision. Think about it. If you look at a picture, okay, and you're in that picture, you're unable to see the whole picture. A child needs somebody to communicate to that can sit on the picture frame and can look into the picture and see everything from a really fresh, clear perspective. So yes, Manisha, communication is that third prong to the three things that you need to give your child. So I want you to shift your perspective, thinking that as a parent, you can do it all and be it all for your child. Yes, I honor you and I understand that that is your role as a parent. First and foremost, the top prong of that plug is your unconditional love and support as a parent. No one can replace that. But research has shown, and there's numerous studies, and perhaps I'll post the link on this replay of a research study that's shown that in order for children to succeed in life and to be able to galvanize themselves and build resilience, it takes a neutral adult and a supportive adult other than the parent. And the research has shown, and here's the great news, that there is absolutely no risk to the parents of that person ever replacing their role. Nobody can ever take a parent's role. That objective person is purely there to act as a conduit to communication. So I want to quickly tap into this communication topic, right? So how do you know who this person is? Well, why don't you ask your child? Ask your child, who is that person who can support you at times of crisis? Because let's face it, today's World Suicide Awareness Day. And children attempt suicide because they feel misunderstood, they have nobody to speak to, and they cannot communicate what it is they're feeling. So as a backup plan, speak to your children, say to them, who is that one person other than me that you can turn to for support and help if you are in trouble? And make sure that your child has somebody like that in their life. Carmelina, You were saying so often parents tell me that their kids won't listen to them, but when someone else tells them the same thing, then they listen. An objective perception is so beneficial. So, so, so true. And that's what our kids' life coaching model is actually based on. It's not that parents can't do the job, because all parents are natural coaches. And part of our coaching model that we support parents in is actually giving parents the tools to coach their children. But something magical happens when a child has unconditional love. They have the skills, and the third prong, the communication, something magical happens. You can plug that in and they have the energy to start solving their own problems, and no problem and no challenge will be big enough to ever cause them to want to take their own life. And that's what you need to be doing as a parent, getting your child to understand that they have the power to speak about what it is that may one day compromise or threaten their life. Carmelina says, yes, this is so true, especially in the tween years, and once they reach 13, it's so challenging. Oh, I've heard that so often, Carmelina, and I can honestly understand what you mean. But you know, that neutral person, whoever that might be, it might be a grandparent, an auntie, an uncle, a teacher, a cousin, a friend. It doesn't matter who that neutral person is. That person is there to offer that added layer. It's like scaffolding, right? It's to protect your child from the risk of holding things in, where they can actually express themselves in a safe environment. So going back to our theme for today, which is World Suicide Awareness Day, I want to just remind you that there is no child that's immune to suicide. I never thought it would happen to my cousin and my uncle. I never ever thought that I would be suicidal. I got through it, and many people do, but one person takes their life every 40 seconds. It's not necessary. It doesn't have to happen. And if we can take those three prongs and start implementing those in your families as a given, and start talking about these things, talking about mental health, raising awareness of how important it is to have daily habits, what we call at the Kids Life Studio, the 7 key ingredients and the 5 tools to building mental resilience and mental toughness, and developing and discovering your child's inner leader. Your child needs those. Okay, there's no denying the fact that you need to put those measures in place. You cannot just think it's going to happen per chance. You cannot leave it up to the schools. Suicide is real. It's happening. It starts, and now there may be some people who disagree with me, but it does start with self-harm. And that's becoming quite an epidemic amongst young children. So that's also a sign to look out for. I want you to make sure that you're aware of what is going on in your child's life, who they're socializing with, who they're around, what they're doing in their spare time. You cannot micromanage them, but you can give them the skills to make good choices, which, remember, is that second prong of that plug. I also want to encourage you that if you think that your child may be at risk for depression and may be at risk for possible suicide, never ever feel afraid to talk about it, okay? If you need a professional to support you in that, you can reach out to us on this group, Discovering Your Child's Inner Leader, and you can ask us for support on the back end. We have a global network of kids life coaches who can give you support, and we can point you in the right direction. But there's another myth that I want to bust today, and that is that you shouldn't speak about suicide to children. Well, yes, you should, because as young as age 8 and 9, children have the comprehension to start thinking about suicide and understanding the concept of suicide. So if you suspect that your child may be at risk, you ask them the questions, direct questions. For a younger child, you would ask something like, do you sometimes go to sleep at night and wish that you didn't wake up in the morning? For an older child, it would be, have you ever thought of committing suicide? Direct, straight out. If they say yes, how have you done that? Get as much detail as possible. The more detail they can give you, the more they've been thinking about it, the more at risk you know that they are. Okay, so talk about it if you suspect. Now, the other thing I want to caution you on is so often parents say to me, they come to me for support, and they say that their child is at risk, and we look at the red flags. We've got this lovely online assessment tool that any of you can pop on and go and do at any stage. It's $20 to do the assessment. We also have a free choice challenge that you can do with your child as well. But so often there's red flags for depression, and I caution the parent and I say, your child is depressed and we need to put the measures in place. But what happens is sometimes parents flip into denial, and that's not because they're bad parents. It's because of the inbred survival mechanism, fight or flight. When you get scared that your child is at risk, you might run or you might fight it, right? Most parents run. They want to avoid it. They don't want to face the fact that their child may be at risk. But you could do such big damage. Face it head on. I also want to share with you that there's something else to look out for. Sometimes parents say to me, right, we've done the assessment, we've put the skills in place, our child is doing so incredibly well. I had a client that was doing so incredibly well who attempted suicide 3 times. Each time before the suicide, they were doing so well that they were laughing, smiling, interacting with their family. When it comes to suicide, that is a very common occurrence to look out for, because there's a sense of relief because they've planned the suicide in their head. They're saying goodbye to their family. They don't have to deal with whatever it is that they're dealing with because they know that they have a future plan. So don't ever think that because your child was depressed and then all of a sudden they're happy and they're interacting and they jovial, that everything's okay. No, that could also be a sign. So I've really busted quite a few myths today. The big one being that we tend to look at suicide risks as being those children who exhibit symptoms of depression. It's not always depression that you're looking for, right? It's also perfectionism and those children who are afraid of getting things wrong and always want to perhaps be in the limelight, get things right. They're afraid of anybody pointing out any weaknesses in their character. So to recap on World Suicide Awareness Day, and I want to say thank you for those of you who hung around with me today. I so appreciate you being here. It's really important for us to tackle this important issue together. It takes a global village to raise a child, and you are not alone as a parent. We are here on this group, Discovering Your Child's Inner Leader through Kids Life Coaching, to support you. And our group is growing slowly but surely. So I really want to encourage you today to implement those 3 prongs of that plug I spoke about. So the very top prong is your unconditional love and acceptance as a parent, okay? Now that means, parents, walking the walk and talking the talk. Are you looking after your own mental well-being? Because however you are looking after your mental well-being will be how your children look after themselves. They're going to look up to you as their role model. So look after yourself, because when you plug in with that plug and recharge and put in the skills for building your own mental health and resilience, your child will be able to do the same. So that's the first prong. The 2 bottom prongs are skills training, and we have a lovely network of coaches doing skills training, and throughout each month we're going to be doing more Facebook Lives like this with a lot of my coaches coming online and sharing their expertise with you. So skills training is a really big one that you can implement at home. There are lots of books to read. There's lots of courses and workshops. We offer a range of workshops through the Kids Life Studio. We have a wonderful events calendar. You can go and have a look there if you want to be one of those proactive parents that takes the steps before things go wrong to put the measures in place to galvanize your child's mind and make them really resilient. The very third prong is communication. And when we talk about communication, it's linked to a sense of belonging, and it's linked to a child feeling supported. Very often children who take their own lives feel unsupported and they feel that they have nobody to talk to. Ask your child, who's your wingman? Who's that one person besides me? Get rid of your ego, parents. Get rid of your ego. Okay? It's not all about you. Ask your children, who is that one adult that you can talk to when you get into trouble, when your mind is so overwhelmed that you might contemplate doing something silly? Who's that one parent that you trust, and that because you trust them, I trust them too? And have that open conversation with your child, because communication really is key. So I want to say thank you for sharing your time with me this evening on World Suicide Prevention Day, and for doing your part. After this video is posted live, I'd love you to share this on your pages so that you can also share the message of the three things, the three easy things that parents can do to support their children in not becoming a statistic, and not being one of those children that make that permanent mistake to a temporary problem. So I'm sending lots of love and zeal your way. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I'm Zelna Lawrence, founder of the Kids Life Studio, the Kids Life Coach Academy, and author of The Secret Parents. Take care.